Hello, here I am back again as promised to continue our little floor plan series. I'm having a lot of fun with these videos, chatting through floor plans with you, and I hope that I'm demonstrating that an interior designer's eye can really build upon an architect's plan. We don't just know like what color your sofa should be, we understand how spaces should function for a comfortable human experience. But today's house is really fun, and it's actually only one design that we're working through today because there's a lot to talk about here. It definitely deserves its own video. So we are in the American West on an absolutely stunning site. I asked for this client's permission to share this photo of the view because wow, look at that. So this couple is planning to build a relatively modest 2-bedroom house here. The only sort of unique needs that they have are an extra deep garage so that the husband has a bit of a workshop space, and they'd like to have a small bathroom dedicated to that shop space. They also know that they definitely want a kitchen pantry with an extra freezer, although it doesn't necessarily need direct access to the garage like this. They also want a small sort of office corner tucked away somewhere. It doesn't need to be acoustically separated with a door or anything like that, but they do want it to feel separate from the main living space. And really beyond that, they didn't have much of a wish list. They wanted a nice primary suite, one additional bedroom, a full bathroom for that bedroom that can also double as the bathroom for the living space. They wanted, of course, like all of us, to be mindful of budget, but at the same time, they really felt like they were designing their dream house that they had been imagining ever since they first bought this land, and they didn't want to sort of cut any corners or make mistakes that they would regret later. And this is the most recent plan that they had from their architect, which they weren't totally satisfied with, as you might imagine. This current layout is frankly leaving something to be desired, right? What they were most concerned about is obviously the relation between the spaces in this main living room. Also making sure that the house takes advantage of the view, which is to the north. It's actually slightly nicer to the northwest, which we'll keep in mind. But they also wanted to be sure that the house gets enough sunlight. They want it to feel really cozy, but really bright at the same time. And we're in the United States, in the northern hemisphere, so obviously the sun comes from the south, opposite the view. So they were really mindful of having large windows on this south wall in order to let in that daylight. So just diving right in to sort of address the elephant in the room, or not even an elephant because we'll just name it. The living space is planned very poorly. The clients had a clear sense of that, but they were sort of stumped on how to fix it, which is why they reached out. Because what's happening here is all 3 zones in this living space, the kitchen, the seating area, and the dining banquette, are each tucked into their respective corners, which I think is feeling kind of odd. They're sort of implying these like 4 quadrants to this very square space, but the lower left one is just completely empty. It's a crazy amount of dead floor space. They told me that one of their main priorities is a home that feels cozy, and this is just not giving cozy by any means. One of the first questions I asked on our call was if they had some sort of specific vision of enjoying that view from the kitchen sink, and they said no, which really surprised me. This is just sort of a layout that their architect came up with. So because this is a new build in early design development, I want to sort of zoom out here and rethink the distribution of this open living space. So let's just clear this out for a second. And before we really get into this, we of course will find a place for that garage workshop toilet, but I think it's kind of silly to put it in the northwest corner, which sort of has the best view potential. And along with that, it doesn't really make sense for the garage to bump out 8 feet into our potential view. So I confirmed that there was no reason for that I was missing, and I recommended that we just push the garage towards the front of the house, like this. That then frees up this corner of the house for a really lovely, expansive view, which we will come back to. So thinking about the distribution of these 3 zones, those sort of quadrants that we had in the original plan. First of all, when we don't really have any spatial constraints, this is new construction, so any limitations that we have are self-imposed, essentially. So I think it's important to understand the sort of natural shape of each of these spaces. Take a kitchen, for example. It's really hard to make a kitchen feel nice when we're squeezing it into a square. A kitchen wants to be linear. It will feel better and function better if we let it take the shape of a long rectangle. The same goes for a dining area that doesn't have a round or a square table. It wants to be more rectangular. But living room seating areas, on the other hand, I think feel really nice when they're very square and sort of sturdy. So I want us to sort of work with these puzzle pieces and think about their relationship to each other, the circulation through the house, and the site, like the exterior. But before we get into all that, I want to take a quick moment to tell you guys about the sponsor of today's video, Rayon Design, which is the drafting software that I use for all of my real life interior design projects, and also what I've used to create all the plans that you're seeing here today. I've told you guys about Rayon before. To me, what really makes it stand out from other softwares is its ability to be clean, sleek, and approachable, but very comprehensive and smart at the same time. You can use it to build out complete drawing sets, client presentations, or even just sketch through quick design ideas. It's great for anyone who wants to create, document, or present their work all in one organized place. Whether you're an amateur self-taught design nerd that just wants to tinker around with your renovation ideas, or you're part of a large-scale architecture firm. And speaking of architecture firms, any of you that are working with a team of designers, whether you're 2 people or 20 people, Rayon makes collaboration extremely easy. Because it's a web-based software, everything updates in real time. You can say goodbye to those days of multiple file versions where everything gets so out of sync, or those countless bottomless email threads with way too many new ideas and changes to even keep track of. I used to work at an architecture firm that basically functioned that way, and it was horrible. I lived to tell the tale, but I don't miss it. That sort of disorganization can just cause so many issues in the design process and so many headaches for the designers. There's no reason for it. But with Rayon, you can comment, co-edit, and share ideas without any of that mess. Together, your team can enjoy Rayon's intuitive platform, extensive block library, and built-in AI features. If you haven't already given Rayon a try, I really recommend checking it out. You can create a free account today by using the link down in my description. And thank you again to Rayon for sponsoring today's video. Okay, back to our floor plan. Now, I personally think it's a bit of a shame to have any kitchen counter up against that north wall with the view. I think the windows there should be as large as possible, with doors opening up out onto the deck. And I think it will be nice to have the living room and dining room, places where people sort of gather and spend a lot of time, adjacent to those big windows with the view. For that reason, I'm going to recommend that we put a nice long linear kitchen down here on the south wall. This also starts to work quite nicely with that natural circulation path of the bedroom hallway. We'll get to the bedrooms and bathrooms later, don't worry. Now, some of you might be sitting there thinking to yourselves, Noah, we just talked about how we're dependent on our south elevation for daylight, and now you've gone and blocked it with this big fat kitchen. So first of all, we can have windows in a kitchen. In fact, it's really nice to have windows in a kitchen, so there's no problem there. But also, I have a pretty radical architectural suggestion for this house that's going to lift all of the daylight pressure off of this south wall. The original plan here, unsurprisingly, was just to have a simple roof pitch running the length of the house. But knowing that these clients want their house to feel architecturally thoughtful and bright and cozy all at once, I suggested that they consider a sort of split shed roof with a band of clear story windows. I'll grab some photos to better communicate what I'm talking about here. Having clear story windows like that facing the south is a really, really wonderful way to sort of capture daylight in one direction, but still prioritize a view in the opposite direction. I think it's exactly what this house is calling for. And if we run that band here, right across the center of our living space, we start to get this really wonderful three-dimensional separation between these zones, which will make the kitchen here feel like it makes even more sense. It's like spatially distinguished with the ceiling height. And with that, I think we have a nice opportunity to really let this boundary guide our entire space plan. So this hallway right now is 4 feet wide. I want to tighten that up just a little bit to 3.5 feet. This will give our kitchen just a little bit more room, and it lets us imagine this circulation path here cutting across the whole house. And I want to use that to decide where our connection to the garage will be. So we're using this path as a sort of boundary or buffer zone between the kitchen and the dining and living room on the north side of the space. And now I want to think about the entry sequence, which, by the way, so many of you commented about that on my last video. I'll just say that whenever I work on an entry with clients, I always ask them about their entry routine and storage needs at their front door. And I've found that it very interestingly varies a lot by culture and climate. For many people, a few hooks and enough space to put a pair of shoes or two is more than enough. Others need a proper heavy-duty mudroom with heaps of storage. Basically, all of that is to say it varies a lot by the person, and most of the clients I work with are building homes for themselves. They're not just like developers building standard spaces. But anyway, just know that all of these plans I show you, I have talked with the person who will be living here about what they prefer. Personally, if you guys are interested, I love an entry transition. I feel very inspired by Japanese genkens. I'm probably not saying that well, which are these sort of sunken entry areas, often with a different flooring material that you see in a lot of Japanese design. If my partner and I ever build a little dream house for ourselves, which I intend to if you guys never stop watching my videos, it will definitely have a nice little transition moment of that sort. But anyway, back to this house that we're talking about today. These clients, as you might expect, are quite outdoorsy people, and they said they would be very happy with a proper entry mudroom buffer zone when they come home. A space that's ready to take on a mess, but of course is designed well enough that it can still be kept tidy. So what I want to do here, off both the garage door and the front door, we can create a little space like that. I think at least 6 feet wide would feel appropriate. I think it's really important that this feels like a room, not a hallway. And we'll stick with that circulation path that's defining the kitchen, so the entrance to the living space will still be here. And rather than squeezing this front door into the corner to make room for storage or an entry bench, we can just flip the swing, throw in a little coat closet and a bench, some storage on this other wall, and then we end up with a really nice little transitional space here. And we haven't forgotten about that pantry on the wish list, which I think we can carve out of our kitchen area here so that it does have mudroom access just for ease and circulation when you come in with a bunch of groceries. A pantry that's around 6'6" still leaves us with a 16-foot long kitchen, which I think is plenty for a home this size. I do think that the design of this mudroom entry should really highlight this opening here into the living space. Probably just like a nice big threshold that has a taller header than the rest of the doors here. It's really important that we establish some hierarchy between all of these openings. We don't want it to feel like a weird little room full of doors. And now that we have the sort of limits of our kitchen defined, let's talk about how this layout can feel cohesive with the space. I think a 16-foot kitchen with an 8-foot island centered on it can be really nice, leaving plenty of room on either side to get in and out. You'll notice that a 3-foot island will actually jut out into the path of travel here, and I actually kind of like that because we want people entering this house to feel like gently redirected into the living room. And the amount of daylight here from those clear story windows will do that anyway, but this almost acts as a sort of subtle barrier from the more private end of the house. That being said, I think the design of the island itself should feel cohesive with that. I would probably recommend like open legs on the stool side of the island and then aligning the back of the cabinetry with these walls. And sticking with the cohesion, I see an opportunity for 2 large windows aligning with the edge of the island, and then a range with a cool hood centered on this back wall here. And then we can tuck a sink and dishwasher right here at the end near the pantry in front of one of our windows. And for our fridge and tall storage, I actually would love to embed them into this wall here, eating into our bathroom a little bit, but we'll talk about how that can work later. Now let's move on to our living space on the view side of the home. First, we can't forget about that garage toilet either, which I think can fit really nicely here, the same width as our mudroom. It leaves us with a little pocket in this corner that I wanted to preserve, which I actually kind of love. It's like this little nook you can tuck away in, but also when you're in the living room, that corner of the space will feel open and have nice big windows. You could definitely put a door on this and make it like a cool little office nook. That could be super nice, but I personally love the idea of building out like a little daybed with bookshelves and creating a nice little reading corner. This could be like the coziest little corner with the most amazing view. It could really be a special moment, I think. And now moving on to our dining and living areas, we have way more context and sort of lines and edges to inform our space plan now. So the clients actually really loved the idea of a banquette dining table up against a wall. And I think we should give that to them right here using this wall, which is actually super nice because the depth of a built-in bench means we can center our dining table on this pantry wall, which all just feels very nice and tidy and logical. Oh, and something else I wanted to talk about was this corner wood-burning stove in the previous plan is actually quite difficult to design around. Anybody that has had one of these, or even just a built-in corner fireplace, knows how difficult it can be to lay out furniture around it. So rather than letting it eat into our nice square living area here, I'm going to suggest that we align it with this kitchen window and island clearance, which neatly divides the living space into two. This way you can enjoy the coziness of the fire from both the dining and living areas, and it can really become this like cool central feature on this wall. As much as budget allows, I would really invest in some special doors here. I think these, along with those clear story windows, are really the two architectural moments that actually matter. Having double doors flank this fireplace that can open up out onto the deck and really create this indoor-outdoor feeling would just be so wonderful. Oh, and also the sofa is something that I need to address from the last video. A lot of you guys were really upset with the direction of the sofa in the second plan that I shared. Basically, I was working with plans that the architect had drawn, and I did forget to flip it and talk about why I would flip it, even though in my actual consultation with my client, we did address that. But I think the reason I forgot to mention it when I was filming is because I don't think it's such a big deal. Maybe that's a hot take. I've realized that a lot of people are super concerned about a sofa facing like a view or a TV or whatever. They really need it to be like directly opposite what they want to look at. And the thing is, humans are not these like orthogonal creatures that only sit at a 90-degree angle to a sofa. Most nicely designed sofas that aren't like lazy boys are pretty interpretive with how you can sit in them. Most people, especially if they're alone, will usually sit on a sofa horizontally, like laying down on it. So I just want to say that while that client did want her sofa to face the view, which can be super nice, I'm not against it, I think it's entirely comfortable to also have a sofa be 90 degrees to a view or a TV or what have you. Unless you're really set on a space feeling like a theater or a cinema or like a very proper viewing bench, I don't think it's that serious. I've even seen it feel quite nice in some spaces to have a view behind a sofa. Because again, humans are not these like robotic creatures that can only face one direction. So if any of you were thinking about commenting, why is the sofa not facing the view? This sofa is entirely facing the view. Anybody sitting on the sofa will be able to enjoy the view. And the same goes for these armchairs opposite the sofa. I hope I explained that well. Okay, now let's move on to the bedrooms and bathrooms. Oh, first I do want to talk about the deck. I think having an outdoor dining table and seating area centered on each of these doors would be nice. That probably goes without saying. I would have the seating area on the northwest side because the furniture will be lower and block less of the view. Also, you guys know I have this thing about indoor and outdoor dining tables being right next to each other. I can't explain it. It just really bothers me. All right, moving on to the bedrooms. You guys see why we're only covering one plan in this video? There's like so much to talk about here. I feel like I've already been talking for hours. So we're going to save the primary suite for last. Let's first resolve this bathroom that I stole from. So I think we were all probably thinking that it would be nice to get this little office nook a window. So right off the bat, let's just pull this all the way down to our exterior wall. And this bathroom and desk area are now both feeling a little squished. So I'm going to suggest we pull a little bit from our secondary bedroom. So let's just make sure we have an 18-inch deep counter, 36 inches of clearance. So our bathroom wall will be here. And then we can actually very comfortably fit a toilet and shower or bath, whatever's preferred, in this area here. So that bump out from the fridge actually starts to feel intentional with the design of the bathroom, which is cool. And then outside the bathroom, we'll have a 2-foot deep desk and again, 36 inches of clearance. So 5 feet wall to wall to accommodate a chair and a nice window at the end here. So our bedroom wall shifts over a bit, which I think is fine. And honestly, I feel like we can increase the size of our laundry room to just align those walls. So instead of this long hallway that all the doors open onto, we actually have this sort of zone tucked down here with the door to the bathroom and bedroom coming off of it. I like how that feels. It almost gives the vibe of like a little suite in a way. And now moving on to the primary suite. We have a lot to talk about here. First of all, the same sort of issue that was happening with the main living space is also happening here. I asked them if it was important to have like a little sitting area in the bedroom for some reason, and again, they said no. This is just what their architect came up with. Frankly, I just want to sort of wipe the whole primary suite clean and take it from the top, just like we did with our living area. Because I actually think that generally, the most comfortable place for the headboard would be here at the very end of the house. Just psychologically, you feel like the whole house is past the foot of your bed, which as humans just feels comfortable to us when there's not energy behind us. It also takes better advantage of that northwest view when you're in bed. So I want to start with our bed here and kind of build around that. I would still keep at least one window on this side of the room though, because daylight from 2 sides of a room is a really great design principle to implement when you can, especially in bigger rooms, including primary bedrooms. And because our laundry room depth will need to eat into the primary suite space a little bit, I think we can use that as sort of a jumping off point for our space plan. I think this same wall can work really well as the end of the bedroom. That feels like a really comfortable proportion to me. Not this like insane 17-foot long room that we had before. When a bedroom is well over double the length of a bed, there should be a really good reason for it. Let's just say that. So then I loved the idea of having the bathroom here with a really nice view and creating an almost sort of vestibule space for the whole primary suite, which can connect us to the bedroom, bathroom, and a nice walk-in closet. A walk-in closet wasn't necessarily on their wish list, but I think it's a great thing to tuck into a dark interior corner if something has to go there. And we can build out the primary bath with a double vanity along this wall, a water closet in the corner with no windows, and space for a shower here. Now at this point in the design, I was just feeling like we needed a little bit more length to the bathroom. Even like one more linear foot would really help this bathroom feel more appropriately proportioned with the double vanity, shower, and separate bathtub. So I'm going to recommend that we extend the footprint of the house just by 1 foot here, if it's necessary, because square footage is a serious limitation. I think we can take away just a few inches from this east wall here in order to make up for that. Then we can have a nice linen closet here opposite the door to the water closet. And we're still left with nearly 7 feet of counter for a lovely sunny double vanity that doesn't need to straddle between the shower and water closet door. And this corner pocket here can become a really nice, big, beautiful wet room, like a tub in shower moment with a separate bathtub and shower in the same wet room. I think this has potential to feel so nice. Seriously, like a spa with that view. I feel like I want to live here. That corner window will definitely need the right window treatments for privacy when required. If a group is eating dinner out here and somebody needs to shower, we don't want any sight lines there. But that's something we can definitely solve with the right shades. I wouldn't want to get rid of that window just in the name of privacy because the view can be so special with a corner window there. And I would give the bedroom and bathroom both access out onto this deck here. And then we can use some plants to make this end of the deck feel more private and separate from the more social end of the deck. Because the footprint of the house actually bumps out like that, we can really think of this portion of the deck as an extension of the primary suite. Okay, I think that's everything I need to say. Last time I had a little bit of a drafting typo where I forgot to mirror a pocket door, and a ton of you guys pointed it out, so I want to be thorough here. Did I forget to say anything? Oh well, I'm sure you guys will spot something and point it out to me. Okay, let's do a little before and after so we can see all the changes. This plan was obviously a pretty major redesign, and I feel like it really shows how committed I am to aligning things on a sort of grid. I just think it's so important to think about how every element in a space will relate to the other elements. Keeping things aligned is a really great thing to keep in mind for a thoughtful, cohesive design. I remember in one of my university design studios, I was designing a lobby to a building, and I had the large front door misaligned with a sort of corner wall. It was like 15 feet beyond the door, but still they weren't aligned. And a professor that I was actually really close with, she was so disappointed that I didn't align the built elements. I never forgot that, obviously, and I don't think I've made the mistake of misalignment knowingly ever since. Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one. I have a pretty busy couple of weeks coming up, so I think the next video in this series will be posted 2 weeks from now. I'm trying to post on Sundays now, I think. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps me out, and I'll see you later in 2 weeks. Bye.